I ripped open the envelope thinking it was mine. It wasn't. The address label read, "Attention, Senior VP, Hairston Holdings," with our home address as the return. Inside were photos, activity logs, and a private investigator's report claiming I was having an affair. I wasn't. But Caleb wanted his boss to see this fabricated evidence before I could defend myself. He was trying to destroy my reputation at work. My hands didn't shake as I read every page. I didn't cry or scream. Instead, I walked calmly to the copy machine in our home office and duplicated everything. Then I resealed the envelope perfectly and mailed it myself. If he wanted war behind my back, he'd get one in front of everyone. My name is April Langston, and I married Caleb 6 months ago. I work in public relations for a major financial firm in the city. His company, Hairston Holdings, is technically our partner, but my firm is higher up the chain. We manage their public image and crisis communications. That detail always bothered him. I earned more than he did. My office was bigger. My name carried weight in boardrooms where his didn't. He smiled through it all at first, but I noticed the resentment growing. The comments about my late meetings. The questions about why I needed to dress so professionally. The way he stopped celebrating my wins. I should have seen this coming. The first real warning sign came 1 month into dating. His mother invited us for dinner at her pristine suburban home. Everything was white and untouchable. She asked me about my job, listened to my answer, then said, "That's nice, dear. Do you have plans to get a real job eventually?" I was already head of communications at a firm managing billions in assets. But to her, it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Caleb laughed it off like she was joking. But her eyes were cold and serious. I smiled politely and changed the subject. I remembered that moment, though. I remembered how small she tried to make me feel in my own success. At our engagement party 3 months later, his sister cornered me by the champagne table. She was drunk, but her words were calculated. "You do realize our family name matters more than yours ever will, right?" She smiled like it was friendly advice. Like she was helping me understand the rules. I smiled back and said nothing. But I filed that comment away in my mind. The Langston family thought their old money and country club memberships made them superior. They couldn't stand that I'd built something on my own. That I didn't need their name or their approval. His sister walked away laughing. I stayed quiet. But I remembered every single word she said that night. 2 weeks before I found the envelope, Caleb started acting strange. He stayed late at the office for no clear reason. He took phone calls in other rooms, whispering urgently. His phone suddenly had a password I didn't know. When I asked if everything was okay, he snapped at me. "I'm just stressed, April. Not everything is about you." I assumed work pressure. I gave him space. But now I understood. He wasn't stressed. He was planning. He was paying someone to follow me, photograph me, and build a case that didn't exist. He was setting up my destruction while I cooked him dinner and asked about his day. The betrayal was calculated and cold. We had dinner with his entire family 1 week before I found the envelope. His mother made passive-aggressive comments about my work schedule. His father ignored me completely. His sister, accidentally, called me by his ex-girlfriend's name. Twice. Everyone laughed. Caleb said nothing. He didn't correct her. He didn't defend me. I excused myself to use the bathroom. On my way back, I saw his phone light up on the hall table. The message preview read, "Report will be sent Monday." Should work perfectly. I memorized the number. I didn't say anything. I sat back down and finished my meal like nothing had happened. But everything had changed in that moment. I spent that night thinking about why he would do this. The answer was painfully clear. Caleb never liked that I earned more money. My company had promoted me twice in 2 years. His hadn't promoted him once. My boss praised me in meetings. His boss barely knew his name. At a company mixer last month, someone asked Caleb what his wife did. When I explained, they turned to him and said, "Wow, she's impressive." His smile had frozen on his face. Later that night, he said something I dismissed as a joke. "It's embarrassing when my wife's name holds more weight in a boardroom than mine." It wasn't a joke. It was a confession. I started building my own file immediately. I pulled the timestamps from the PI report and cross-referenced them with my actual location data. My phone's GPS credit card receipts. Security camera footage from my office building. Every single sighting in the report was false. The more I examined the photos, the more obvious the fabrication became. Images were photoshopped. Text messages were cropped to remove context. One photo showed me kissing someone in a parking garage. Except the woman's hair was 3 inches longer than mine, and she wore shoes I'd never owned. The PI had gotten lazy. They hadn't expected me to see this. They'd underestimated me completely. I needed an ally, so I went to Monica, my boss. We'd worked together for 5 years, and I trusted her completely. She also happened to sit on the advisory board for Hairston Holdings. I showed her the PI report in her office with the door closed. Her face turned to stone as she read. When she finished, she looked up at me with fury in her eyes. "He sent this to one of our senior VPs last week," she said quietly. "They forwarded it to me asking for context. I defended you immediately. But April, you're not the one under review anymore. He is." She made a phone call right there. I listened as she calmly destroyed Caleb's plan with 4 sentences. The original envelope arrived at Hairston Holdings 2 days later. HR called Caleb into a closed-door meeting that afternoon. He was completely confused. The report was supposed to arrive earlier, before I knew. They confronted him with the evidence of falsification. The doctored photos. The impossible timelines. The PI firm's questionable reputation. They didn't fire him immediately. Instead, they launched a formal investigation. Every email he'd sent. Every expense report he'd filed. Every claim he'd made about his work. They were building a case. Caleb came home that night pale and shaking. "Someone's trying to set me up," he said. I nodded sympathetically. "That's terrible," I replied. Then I went to bed early. His mother called me the next morning, her voice shaking with rage. "You made him look like a liar to his employer," she screamed into the phone. "Do you realize what you've done to his reputation? To our family name?" I let her finish her rant. Then I said calmly, "I didn't make him look like anything. I showed them who he actually is. He ruined his own name when he hired someone to fabricate evidence against me." She sputtered something about family loyalty. I hung up. Then I blocked her number. I was done pretending this family deserved my respect. They'd shown me exactly who they were. I finally believed them. At the next family dinner, I did something strategic. I brought a small voice recorder and hid it in the guest bathroom inside a tissue box. During dessert, I excused myself and activated it remotely from my phone. 20 minutes later, I retrieved it. When I listened to the recording that night, I hit gold. His mother and sister, talking in hushed voices about how they helped get the fake text messages to the PI. How they needed to protect Caleb from making a mistake marrying her. How they knew she'd be trouble from the start. I saved 3 copies of that audio file in 3 different cloud accounts. Evidence is only useful if it can't be destroyed. I moved into a hotel the following Monday. I didn't announce it. I didn't pack dramatically or leave a note explaining my feelings. I simply took my essentials while he was at work and left a single sentence on the kitchen counter: "I'll be filing formally." No emotion. No confrontation. Just space. Caleb called me 17 times that evening. I answered none of them. He sent texts ranging from confused to angry to apologetic. I saved every message but replied to nothing. Silence, I'd learned, was the most powerful response. It gave him nothing to argue against. Nothing to manipulate. Just the echo of his own choices bouncing back at him. 2 weeks later, I attended a joint company meeting between my firm and Hairston Holdings. Monica allowed me to present our quarterly communications strategy. I dressed in my best suit and prepared meticulously. When I walked into the boardroom, Caleb was already there. His face went white when he saw me. Nobody had told him I'd be presenting. I gave a flawless 40-minute presentation about crisis management and reputation protection. His boss watched me lead the room with complete authority. After the meeting, 3 executives congratulated me. Caleb sat frozen in his chair. I packed my materials and left without looking at him once. The message was clear: I was thriving. He was sinking. Caleb called me 11 times that night. I didn't answer. He sent an email the next morning. "You're blowing this completely out of proportion. We can fix this if you just talk to me like an adult." I forwarded the email to Monica without comment. She replied within minutes, "Let him drown in his own mess. Just keep your head high and do your job. You're untouchable right now." She was right. I'd done nothing wrong. I had proof of my innocence and evidence of his conspiracy. Meanwhile, his investigation was expanding. HR was digging into his past behavior. And I was getting promoted while he fought for his career. The irony was perfect. A friend who worked at Hairston Holdings messaged me that Friday. "Word is spreading fast. They're reviewing other complaints about Caleb. Apparently this isn't the first time he's weaponized false information against someone." My stomach dropped. I asked for details. She sent me screenshots. 3 years ago, he'd accused a female colleague of stealing his project ideas. The woman was investigated, then cleared when security footage proved she'd created the work herself. Caleb had falsified timestamps. The woman left the company anyway, reputation damaged. He'd done this before. He had a pattern. And now that pattern was finally catching up to him. I felt sick thinking about that other woman. But also validated. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I did something bold next. I tracked down Caleb's ex-wife. He'd been briefly married in his early 20s. He'd told me it ended amicably. That was a lie. I found her on social media and sent a careful message. She called me within an hour. "He did the same thing to me," she said, her voice tired. "He faked text messages to make me look unstable during our divorce. He wanted custody of our dog out of spite. I couldn't prove the messages were fake back then. Technology wasn't as advanced." She agreed to testify, anonymously, to his company's ethics board. Another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. This was who Caleb was. This was what he did when he felt threatened. I received a confidential invitation from Hairston Holdings Ethics Committee. They were reviewing all intercompany communications and conduct involving Caleb Langston. They asked me to submit my side of the story with any supporting evidence. I submitted everything. The original PI report with my annotations. GPS data proving I was elsewhere. The audio recording of his mother and sister admitting their involvement. Screenshots of his threatening emails. Testimony from his ex-wife about his pattern of behavior. The committee thanked me for my thoroughness. They said the investigation would conclude within 2 weeks. Caleb had no idea this was happening. He thought he was just on temporary leave. He had no idea the walls were closing in permanently. Caleb was officially placed on administrative suspension 3 days later. Not fired yet, but removed from all projects and systems. The news spread through both companies within hours. I heard his mother called the senior VP in tears, demanding they reinstate him. The VP refused to take her call. His sister tried to leverage her husband's business connections to pressure the board. It backfired spectacularly. Every attempt his family made to interfere just added to the evidence of their desperation. Meanwhile, I continued working normally. I attended meetings. I led presentations. I smiled professionally at colleagues who asked if I was okay. "I'm fine," I said simply. Because I was. I was better than fine. I was free. Our company held its annual gala the following month. It was a black tie event with clients and partners. I attended alone, wearing a dress that cost a month's rent. I was invited to speak on stage about our firm's vision. As I stood at the podium addressing 300 people, Caleb walked in late. He tried to approach me after my speech. Security intercepted him at my request. They asked him to leave. He argued. They escorted him out. Everyone saw. Everyone whispered. His reputation wasn't just damaged anymore. It was completely destroyed. And I had done nothing but tell the truth and protect myself. Sometimes that's all it takes. Caleb cornered me in the parking garage 2 weeks later. I was walking to my car when he appeared from behind a concrete pillar. "You could have just talked to me," he said, his voice desperate. "We could have worked this out like adults. Instead, you destroyed everything." I stopped walking and looked at him directly. "You paid someone to fabricate evidence that I was cheating. You sent it to your employer to destroy my career. You involved your family in a conspiracy against me. I didn't destroy anything, Caleb. I just showed everyone what you did. Then I got in my car and drove away. He stood there in the parking garage, alone, watching me leave. It was the last time I ever saw him. Hairston Holdings fired Caleb 3 days later for ethics violations, misconduct, and falsifying information. He lost his pension match, his health benefits, and his professional certifications. The termination was for cause, meaning no severance package. His mother's country club asked her to resign after other members complained about the scandal. His sister's wedding venue canceled their contract when the coordinator recognized the family name from news coverage. They were all scorched by association. Everything they'd built their identity on, their reputation, their connections, their name, was worthless now. And I hadn't even had to try that hard. The truth did all the heavy lifting. Monica called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. I thought it might be about Caleb's termination. Instead, she smiled and slid a folder across her desk. "We'd like you to lead the North America division," she said. "You've shown more composure and intelligence under pressure than anyone I've ever worked with." The board voted unanimously. The promotion came with a significant raise, a corner office, and a team of 12 people reporting to me. I accepted immediately. That night, I celebrated alone in my hotel room with expensive wine and takeout. Not because I was lonely. Because I wanted to savor this moment by myself. This victory was mine. Nobody else's. I bought my own condo 2 months later. Modern, spacious, filled with natural light. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. No compromise. No input from anyone else. Just my taste, my choices, my peace. Caleb never tried to contact me again. His lawyer sent divorce papers that I signed without hesitation. No fights over assets. No drama. Just signatures and closure. His family never reached out. I never expected them to. I filled my new home with quiet and possibility. I hosted dinners for friends who'd supported me. I adopted a cat who sat on my lap while I worked. I built a life that was completely, beautifully mine. No apologies. No regrets. Just freedom. 6 months after everything ended, I received a package at my office. Inside was a copy of the original PI report. Someone had mailed it back to me with a note, "Keep this. You earned it." I smiled and filed it away in my desk drawer. That evening, I took out another copy and wrote across the top in red marker, "For every woman told to stay silent." I mailed it to a women's advocacy organization I'd been following. They called me a week later asking if I'd speak at their conference about standing up for yourself in professional settings. I agreed. My story wasn't about revenge. It was about refusing to be destroyed by someone else's insecurity. And that, I'd learned, was the most powerful thing I could possibly do.